My name's McCracken. I'm an anthropologist. I study contemporary First World Western cultures mostly. And I'm interested in, because I study culture, my concern here when it comes to listening and empathy is two kinds of culture. One is the culture inside the corporation. The other is the culture outside the corporation. And what we see, you can't have any community, and you certainly can't have any enterprise, unless you have, as they like to say, unless everyone's on the same page. And that consensus means that the people who make up the organization end up binding with one set of understandings about the world, which understandings almost always devolve into a set of assumptions, which assumptions then come to govern the way the organization sees itself and the world invisibly, so that you are captive of certain ideas, but you don't know you're the captive of those ideas. So, and they act as a kind of a gravitational field, or a tractor beam that prevents people. Everything that makes the organization good at acting like an organization is inclined to make them bad at grasping the ideas and activities and communities that exist outside the corporation. So that's really the big challenge here, and it's really what listening and empathy are designed to do. Even when you install methods for listening and empathy, I think it's still extraordinarily difficult to, you can get information from the outside in, you can get knowledge from the outside in. I'm trying to build a continuum here. You can bring understandings of the world out there within. What's really tough to get at is that last concentric ring, and that is the fundamental understandings of the world that construct, that inform the individual and the community outside the organization. And for that, what you need is this fabulous kind of intellectual and emotional laterality, mobility, that allows somebody, when it happens to you, right, when you're grasping what somebody is trying to tell you, often in a political debate, you can't tell what the hell they're saying or why they're saying it. And then the penny drops, as the English like to say. You have that little sensation of going, oh, so that's what they mean. Oh, the phrase we always use is, oh, that's where they're coming from. And that little phrase, I think, indexes, tells us about what we've done. We've just relocated ourselves intellectually and emotionally. It's that accomplishment. It's fantastically difficult for the corporation, for the organization to accomplish for itself, to release the constraints of the invisible assumptions within and take up residence in the world outside itself, to see that world as it's seen by the occupants of the world. So that's the big challenge here. And it's fantastically difficult. There's a guy who was running a firm, Richard Wise was running a firm called Mirror Ball in New York City, and he would bring people from any organization into New York City and turn the New York City into a kind of laboratory, sort of dunk people in these immersive experiences, as a result of which some of them ran screaming from the event, but others went, oh, I get that there's a world outside my own, that it's constituted according to radically different notions, and that I can, for a brief moment, take up residence there and begin to see that my little notion of the world is peculiar and highly limited, and that I must now engage in other acts of listening and empathy to get from inside outside. That's me. I guess for me, the trick is moving from listening to empathy, working your way into that world you don't know. And then empathy, for me, too often is treated as an act of feeling someone's pain, is the phrase we often use, sort of participating in their emotional life, which feels to me useful, but the lesser half of the larger whole, which is, again, to return to my remarks of earlier today, is really getting into the way they conceptualize their world. And that means dropping, the phrase I end up using, and I don't know where I got it from, it's probably from ethnomethodology. I'm sure there's a better science fiction language for this, but it's that shifting frame, right, where you stop thinking the things you normally think, and you occupy somebody else, and you begin to think in a quite holistic way the things they think and feel. It's that shifting frame that is the objective here. And it's really easy to get the organization to understand that there is a world out there that they don't get. Getting them to drop into that new way of seeing, feeling, thinking is vastly more difficult, and for me the real challenge here. So one of the things that people have resorted to is using ethnography, which of course is one of the methods of anthropology. And people thought, look, this is, got to be close to perfect. We'll get people out of the organization, we'll get them into homes, we'll get them engaged in conversations for which they have no script. We'll turn them over to the accidents, the happy accidents of the conversation. And that's proved to be, on balance, an unhappy kind of the outcome has not been pretty. I think ethnography has been badly commoditized, and it's been used, the term has been misused. I think one of the problems with it, though, is that it presupposes a kind of conversational symmetry between the person in the home and the person asking the questions. And of course, that notion of a symmetry between the two is encouraged by the wonderful book by Doc Searles and Weinberger and two others called the Clue Train Manifesto. But I think this notion of symmetry is methodologically wrong. I think when you do these, the way you get yourself out of your culture into somebody else's culture, at least for my purposes, and this may be my Presbyterian boyhood speaking, but you sort of make yourself their servant. I mean, you sort of say, and I really don't. It's my job to ask stupid questions until I begin to see what it is you mean. And it's that kind of act of humility that I think is the beginning of this shift from the notion of the corporation as godlike kind of creature on the planet, for whom all relationships are asymmetrical in the wrong direction. They're the superordinate party. Consumers and employees are subordinates. So this notion that we correct that by looking for symmetry is, I think, wrong. I think there should be an asymmetry. It should just run in the other direction. Again, this may be my Presbyterian boyhood, but the corporation is, in some sense, the servant of the people it wishes to engage as. That's one point. I guess, I listen to this conversation and I think, when do we blow a whistle and say, look, we were just kidding about most of what we've said in the world about organizations and corporations? I mean, these were things in the world designed to make hammers, or they were designed, as general stores to sell hammers. They were fantastically simple organizations, and now we're talking about organizations that have to be porous, various, changing and responding, engaging inside, engaging outside, liable to pick up and respond to disruptions and black swans. And we're talking about something like a planet that with nuanced and layered and fantastically complicated. And no one, it seems to me, with the exception of the business press, which almost always gets it wrong, no one has said, look, we just have to start again. It's just an entirely different creature. Anyhow, that's my recommendation, that we just start again.
What would it look like if you started again?
I think it would look like a small planet. And I was thinking of that terrible film, Sixth Sense, where they have all the creatures, all the planes kind of flying in, flying out of this incredibly porous, dynamic kind of hive of activity. Presumably, that's what it looks like.
Right now, it's Village of the Damned.